Welcome back to Britain's favourite super mini. I say that, it's not technically a mini, it is the 2023 Ford Fiesta, yours for 20 points in winter of Series 37. Or at least I hope it's Series 37. Anyway, this little Ford Fiesta has got a staggering 197 brake horsepower from stock, 236 foot-pounds of torque while weighing just a shade under 2,660 pounds. The Fiesta ST is a pretty decent car indeed, and of course the Fiesta has been around since the 70s, but this is the most recent and last iteration which has been added into Forza Horizon 5 for us to take a look at. Does look pretty good from the front, kind of nice from the side. I don't know what was going on with the backlights. I wasn't a fan when they first started, but I'm gradually starting to warm to it. Going to the inside, it doesn't look too bad. You've got your good old-fashioned screen in the middle, a couple of dials, and we've also got digital gauges on the dashboard of this thing. Right, let's go ahead and take a listen to that little 1.5 litre. Alrighty, here we are now in the upgrade shop. The first thing we're doing is going straight over to conversion and to engine swaps to see what we have available for this thing. And we've got ourselves a whopping 1, which is the 1.6 litre inline 4 turbo rally. So not that much to choose from, which is a bit disappointing. Going over to a drivetrain, we can take this thing from front wheel to a rear wheel to all-wheel drive, which is interesting because I don't think I've ever seen a rear-wheel drive Ford Fiesta. As for aero and appearance, we do have a few options this time around from Maxton Design, once again with a pretty cool looking sport front bumper which adds these little canards and a splitter onto the front. Going to the back, as one of my friends put it, it's got a little bit of a shelf for your rear window wiper, which also reminds me a lot of one of the early body kits back in Horizon 1 for the original 2001 Honda Civic. Oh, and there's also the standard Forza wing too. Will we ever get rid of that Forza aero? As for the rear bumper, we've got a few from Maxton Design. We've got this one which doesn't really change the back bumper too much. We've got this one which barely changes it at all. And we've got this one which I think, well, there's barely any difference to be quite honest with you. And for side skirts, we've got two options as well. We have got this one and we have this one right here. So all in all, not a bad set of options, not a great set of options either, but it is nice we are starting to get more customization. And the best bit is this Ford Fiesta is turboed from the factory, so that means I can give it anti-lag and make it have a lot of flames. Imagine cooking a marshmallow on the back of that. In the meantime, our local mechanic Mac is back once again with a brand new tune for us. Let's go ahead and bring up the share code. There it is. Feel free to go ahead and give that a little bit of a download, which is what I'm going to do just about now. So with those upgrades, that takes us to 2,181 pounds in weight, 339 brake horsepower, the top of a Cluster A800, all that for just a shade under 55,000 credits. You know, I'll be interested to see how this does. In the meantime, here we are now over in the paint shop. We're going to go to Advanced, of which there is nothing sadly, but for manufacturer colours, we've got ourselves a whopping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to choose from, and I think I'm going to choose the brilliant white just here. And now to wait an eternity while this game decides how to save for paint. Now you might see at the top right, Mac is currently in a convoy with us as I'm recording this, and they've also got a Fiesta, but it's not this one. We'll get to that in just a second. Or at least it would do if Mac's game hadn't crashed. Okay, Forza, I tried to start the race and now it looks like I'm in the middle of a Hollywood movie. What is happening? So I've actually seen a few of these Ford Fiesta STs in the wild, which is honestly pretty interesting. They are a pretty nice car indeed. I know there's quite a fair few of these ones, so they're not exactly a rare car, but they are pretty nice, and it's nice to have some daily drivers in the game at long last. And away we go, we're now up against a whole bunch of other various assorted vehicles, and also the Ford Fiesta's older cousin, which just so happens to be piloted by Mac because he's kind of interested about wanting to know how good the new Fiesta is versus the old Fiesta. So it's going to be very, very interesting. He has made both of the tunes for these cars, so he's had a lot of experience driving that one, as well I haven't, so if anything goes wrong, that's my excuse. Let's go ahead and see what we can do with this thing. At the moment, everybody else is just absolutely running away at the front, so let's try and see us get on the brakes earlier. Does this thing have good brakes? Actually, surprisingly, yes it does. That's actually pretty cool. And another cool fact is the original name of the Ford Fiesta, its code name whilst it was in production way back in the 70s, was Bobcat. Bet you didn't know that one. Now, like I said earlier, these things aren't exactly rare. There's a whole bunch of them, and you can pick them up today for anywhere between £8,000 to £25,000 sterling. And for my friends overseas, the American version of that will be on your screen now. Okay, we're 65-66% through the race even, and I think it's safe to say that the most modern version of the Fiesta is certainly outracing its much older cousin. It's still a little bit on the understeery side, but all in all, this tune is actually pretty good, and this car itself handles fairly well as well, which from a front-wheel drive car in this game is kind of rare. 95% is going to be very close. There is a Renault behind us and the Ford Fiesta behind that, but we are going to go ahead and take ourselves a very nice first place, and the time should hopefully be on screen as well. So after what turned out to be a very impressive race from the Ford Fiesta right here, now is our turn to go ahead and have a little bit of a go at making this thing a bit of a drag build. So of course we're making this thing all-wheel drive, we're going to throw in the 1.6 litre inline 4, and we're also going to go ahead and upgrade that fully. I know it won't give us too much horsepower, which is a little bit of a shame, but well, it's the only other engine swap for this thing, and I can put anti-lag on it, so, you know, I can casually just end up making it do this. In the meantime, let's go ahead and chuck on some decent brakes and make this thing a whole lot lighter, and hopefully we should actually get a pretty decent drag car out of this. Or at least, that's what I'm hoping. So with our bunch of upgrades, we're now sat at 2,392 pounds in weight, 668 brake horsepower, and we are just about halfway through S1, and that cost us 81,850 credits. So after all of the upgrades, now I have to go ahead and tune this thing, which might take me a while, so I'll be right back. So as it turns out, it's taken us that long to tune this thing that it's turned into nice, but at least we can see the very powerful front beams on the headlights. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get a little bit of a wheelie check. Do we have anything? Not really, but well, I guess over to the drag strip we go. So let's go ahead and get ourselves onto launch control, and away we go. Let's go ahead and find out what we can do with the tiny little Ford Fiesta. Nearly called it a Focus, because technically it is the Focus, just, you know, shrunk a bit. But let's go ahead and see what do we get through the camera. We got ourselves 175.12 miles an hour, and off the end of the runway is 192. However, that's not all, because there's another Fiesta around here which I think was programmed to do something a little bit different. And there is the Ford Fiesta itself, which Mac has made do something very impressive. And hopefully we should see any second. He stalled it, but away it goes, doing a reverse wheelie straight off into the distance. I was going to say sunset, but the sun has already set. So with that amount of chaos out of the way, now we've got to go ahead and make this thing ready for the road. So we're going to go ahead and put on, where are they, just our regular semi-slick tyres, and we're also going to go ahead and change the suspension from off-road all the way back to some racing springs and dampers. And in case you're wondering about that reverse wheelie tune, it is also currently up for download, and there is the very share code for it. However, before we go any further, here is this week's Forza Salon shop for the week. We've got the Aston Martin Vantage S, we've got a custom cap, and a custom sundress as well. Both look very cool together. We've also got the Bentley Continental Super Sport, this car horn over here, which sounds a bit like this. Oh dear. We've also got ourselves the Horizon Super Wheelspin and the regular Horizon Wheelspin as well. And now, out to the motorway. Okay, time for the ever favourites challenge of how close can we get to that one very hyper-specific motorway grate. We've gone pretty close to it in the past. In fact, even nearly having our wheels on it. But let's go ahead and see how close we have gotten today. Hopefully, we are pretty close to it. So let's go ahead and see. We are loading in. And where are we? Where is the grates? We are nowhere near it. You'd have thought one of these days I would have learnt, but nope, we're still here. Anyway, here we are now over at the edge of the motorway. We're on launch control, and away we go. Hopefully we'll get a pretty decent top speed out of the tiny Fiesta. It's not exactly the most powerful thing in existence. It's a little on the heavy side, but I'm still hoping for something pretty good indeed. So far, it seems to be just like a leisurely little cruise, because that's pretty much what the Fiesta is nowadays, just something to take for a bit of a cruise. But going out of the speed zone, we've got 215.43. So let's go ahead and see what we get on the downhill and the speed camera, because we've still got that to go. Only it might take me a while to get there. And through the camera at 218.65, going downhill 221, 222, 223, 224, 225. Those numbers moved quicker than any number at a car auction ever has. But 225 is the top speed of this thing, which, to be quite honest, I'm doing a terrible job of words, but also to be quite honest, this car doing that speed is, well, quite frankly insane. Not the fastest thing on the planet, but for a Fiesta, that's pretty speedy. However, we're not quite done with this little car just yet. because now we're going to go ahead and take this thing for a little bit of a drifting adventure. Let's go ahead and see what we get out of this tiny little 668 brake horsepower machine, which kind of also looks a bit like a computer mouse if you ask me. Let's go ahead and see what we get out of there. We get ourselves 36,700 and something points, and a stage here has even come to join us as well. But the question is, can we do better? So let's go ahead and find out what we can do now in round number 2. We're going to go ahead and chuck this thing in here, try and stay away from the ball, because hopefully, staying away from the balls is a pretty good idea. And we go out the other side at 33,300 points, which is not too bad for this thing, but I feel like if you spend a bit more time working on this thing, you can get some much better results. Essentially, it's a kind of gymkhana car at this point. And so that is the Ford Fiesta ST. Is it worth picking up? Well, if you want something to be a little bit of a, I guess, kind of a cruising car, then it's not too bad. If you want something that's a bit of a gymkhana car, go ahead and swap in the, the turbo 1.6, whatever it is. The, I believe inline 4. It's a good engine, but I really wish we had some better options for this thing. But all in all, for a cruising car, it's not bad. But if you want to use this thing for some serious racing, I'd say definitely reconsider your choices. However, this thing is just 20 points. The stage here has gone for a little bit of a tumble. I was going to try and help it out, but we missed it entirely. But that is the Ford Fiesta. It's a pretty cool car. It will take you about half an hour to unlock. And honestly, I'd say if you want a nice little cruising car, get this. But if you want a serious racer, definitely go ahead and choose something else. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff. And I will see you in the next one. As ever, thank you very much for watching. Tech out. See ya. I need to get me a stage here.